Everybody, it is Mike Young at digitalnomad.net. Thanks so much for being here and watching. Now, why is the world set up the way that it is? Okay. In 2025, you ever thought about that? Life in general. Well, here's one man's theory, and let us analyze it together.
Maybe population decline is coming from an even more disturbing place than we think. What if the story that we're told about a future of abundance, modernization, and progress from tech advancements is just a form of propaganda?
Okay, so he's talking about, first of all, population decline. Hopefully you accept that if you're watching this video on my channel. I've done some videos recently talking about this. When I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, all about population, being the world being overburdened with too many people. And I think now it's become clear to the enlightened, and it's slowly becoming everyone, that the opposite is true, and that population is on the decline. So let's hear some more.
Now hear me out. Governments and corporations want us all to believe in endless prosperity.
They do.
Well, in reality, the toxic effects of modernization are slowly killing us.
No, that's true in more than one way. And I don't think he's even going to get into it in this video, but, I run an organization, a nonprofit called aplantbaseddiet.org, and we talk about how basically everyone's habits that they are taught these days and have handed down, the food system, et cetera, is just destroying our health. And we want people to take control of their own health. And I'm going to kind of weave that into this discussion because I don't think this guy talks about it too much. Who is it? The functional melancholic. I'll link the video down below.
On purpose. So maybe the real future, the one not advertised, is about quietly reducing the human surplus without firing so much as a single shot.
All right, now that is important. Let me get off his blink here. All right. Anybody out there seen The Matrix? Let me know in the comments. That's pretty much what happens if you took the red pill in The Matrix, right? You found out this system of enslaved humans, and all the humans pretty much didn't even realize that they were being enslaved. They all pretty much decided to take the blue pill, and that's that was the system. And I think more and more people are realizing that that could possibly be going on today, right now.
No violence, no mushroom clouds, no jackbooted dystopian army marching in lockstep. Just spreadsheets and policy and nefarious market incentives. An insidious little genocide disguised as progress.
Nefarious marketing policies. So everything's being done, as we talked about here, possibly through AI. It's so good now, it's steering you in ways that you have no idea are even happening. And in a way that's, it's not for your health. But as we know, well, first of all, I'm an introvert, but most people are, I say most people are extroverts, and they all want to do what everyone else is doing. So if everyone else is going down and destroying their health and other things, then I guess that's what the average person is going to end up being doing right now in 2025.
And the creepy part is, I think it's already happening.
Yeah.
So, in a nutshell, the powers that be, having noticed that technology is actually leading to population decline.
And actually, of course, everyone's dopamine receptors have been hijacked. Everyone is getting short-term dopamine hits on this technology, these screens that everyone's carrying around. So the government, or whoever's in control of this, the technocrats, as you saw at the last election, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and I can't even remember the other folks who were there, but they may be in charge of all of this. I guess that's what he's getting at.
Are implementing global reforms to expand upon and capitalize on this trend. Now, before you start foaming at the mouth in the comments, I know this sounds slightly out there. It sounds a little out there to me. However, let's just take a look at some of the evidence.
Yeah, let's do that.
Acknowledge the story that we've all been sold so far. We all know progress means prosperity for everyone, right? Technology makes life easier.
Well, he's saying prosperity for everyone, progress. But as we know, I think Gen Z and Gen Alpha have pretty much given up on ever being able to buy a house. The gap between wage earners and the amount of money that's needed to support a household seems like it keeps widening and widening. And this is one of the reasons why populations are declining, at least in the theory of many. Anyway, let's see what he has to say.
Big leap forward somehow, allegedly, lifts us all like some benevolent Silicon Valley Moses. You know, a rising tide lifts all boats. So that
Now, this is something I've wondered about for years, okay? Because back in the 80s, and I worked all through the 80s, my own landscape business, even at the end of the 70s, and I always, realized I could acquire this fake money, these dollars, by doing this work. But the large corporations theory was always a little different, and I didn't really buy into that. I didn't actually start investing early on because I didn't believe it about this constant progress. You're constantly moving forward. There's never a ceiling to this. And a lot of people, most people, I guess, they just unconsciously believe that.
that's the narrative we're fed. It's optimistic and reassuring, but to me it sounds a little Pollyanna. And it's also, in my opinion, probably complete bullshit.
Yeah.
Because technology doesn't really lift every boat. It lifts some boats, namely
Actually, I'd say it lifts the boats of the open-minded people that are willing to explore this technology. The fact that we all have the whole world in the palm of our hands, but most people's, their dopamine receptors in their brains have been hijacked, and they are watching TikTok all day. That's what the average person's doing. So the opportunity is there, but I think kind of what he's getting at, almost no one's taking advantage of that.
yachts, and everyone else is left more or less drowning in the wake, clinging onto a broken pool noodle and calling that hope.
Mm-hmm.
All right. For the bulk of human civilization, larger populations translated to greater productive capacity. People have been historically the primary source of prosperity. Consider agricultural laborers, manufacturing workers, miners.
Yeah, labor is what he's getting at. That's what I was talking about earlier when I was laboring. I still am in my own landscape business. That's not scalable from a one-person laborer perspective, but all this other stuff is. So maybe this is what he's talking about.
The armed forces, and of course, the tax base that funded governments. The whole system, it depended on human labor and human consumption.
Right. Yep.
But times they are a changing.
Yes, they are.
Because now we've got automation coming in like a tsunami. AI, algorithms that never call in sick, never ask for hazard pay, machines that don't unionize, and of course, never need to rest.
So consider this is what he's saying is controlling everything now, setting up this system. This is why you have no chance. This is kind of what folks have been saying. If you didn't understand it before, maybe you understand it now. You really have no chance against a system like this as a human being that requires sleep every night.
And suddenly humans aren't the engine of the economy anymore. They're the inefficiency. The obsolete carbon-based liability. So us humans, at this stage of the game, are the slow, expensive, emotional bottleneck in a streamlined system designed for speed. So what does any rational and profitable system do?
All right. Well, this kind of brings in the Matrix. This is where it was. There was a war between the machines and the humans, and realized that the humans, same thing he's saying right here. And what the machines did was enslave humans to take their energy, while they were in this, I guess, this world that they were imagining they were in, which was really nothing more than a prison chamber that they were used to produce energy for the AI, the robots, the machines. And maybe we're close to that right now.
It eliminates inefficiency. And it does this surreptitiously and effectively, of course, preferably with a fake smile and a sustainability report. So it's really unnecessary to write up plans that openly advocate for eliminating hundreds of millions of people. That would be barbaric, of course. It would be bad PR.
So he's saying that this is all being done without saying one word to anyone. But like you said, not one single shot has been fired. There's no terror anywhere. In fact, people are more sedated and apparently soothed by all these short-term dopamine hits, these cheap goods from China, et cetera, that they're not paying attention to this.
So all you really need to do is create an environment where people voluntarily take themselves out of the game.
Yeah, there you go.
And they thank you for it.
Yeah.
That's the elegant part.
Yeah, I
So
can say
now,
that in our area of trying to teach health to people, it is an uphill, not a battle. I mean, it's just like we can only work with open-minded people. Most people are not open-minded. They think that they're already doing what they want. They're in the best system. They just they're somehow brainwashed on some former American dream. And when I try to get folks to consider, taking control of your own health so you don't get sick and changing your habits, and of course, utilizing these tools. I think that these internet tools can be amazing if used properly, but if not, they're just nothing but a distraction, and then you can't pay attention to anything.
how do you do that? How do you make a species obsolete without any violence whatsoever? Well, it's a good question.
Yeah.
And it turns out it's actually pretty easy. You weaponize convenience. First, you start with
Weaponized
the food supply.
convenience. There you go. Oh,
Make healthy nutrition cost more than rent.
okay. So that's what he's getting at. He's kind of saying that the system has, made these food-like products. That's what I call them. The least expensive, most convenient things with a stable shelf life and all this, always the same whenever you get. That's all true, because doing what's best for your health is not convenient. I never said it was. I never will say it. In fact, it's the most inconvenient thing possible. And when you're not paying attention to anything anymore, you're getting these short-term dopamine hits from your devices. That's what you want to do. Just reach over and just grab this convenient thing, this food-like product, and there you go. They've got you trapped in that system right there.
Then fill the shelves with addictive, inexpensive, edible landmines.
Yeah.
Hyper processed garbage that's scientifically engineered to hijack your dopamine.
Yep. So this is happening on the food level with your taste buds, and we all know that. I think the average person has like more than half of their diet, like 60% right now in 2025, is ultra processed foods for the average person. That's not me, but that's the average person. And of course, all that serves to ruin your attention span. These fiberless foods, high calorie density, high sodium, high fat,
like a slot machine. It's guaranteed to kill you slowly.
Absolutely. Yes.
Maybe not today or tomorrow, but give it a decade or so.
Yeah. Slow death by poisoning. There's nothing illegal about it, apparently, in this system. I've said this for years and years, if not 10 or 20 years, and I guess there never will be. But by the way, if you want to learn different, go to healthoptimizationtravel.org. You can see some opportunities we have there where you can live out the opposite of what he's talking about right now. The opposite. It's the antidote to what he's saying.
And the body count starts adding up. I mean, why build death camps when you've got aisles 7, 8, 9, and 10, for that matter?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Every convenience store is a candy-colored euthanasia center.
Oh, my gosh.
And people are...
Candy-colored euthanasia center. It's the fake fruits. When you go into these convenience stores, everything, it kind of it's eye-popping. It's like, oh, all the colors and everything. But it's just tricking your brain because you want the real fruits, the real ripe fruits, and that's not what they're delivering. They've got the ultra-processed version that's going to achieve the goals of the system here in 2025.
Are literally lining up to pay for their own slow-motion elimination.
Unfortunately.
Stuff. Mm-hmm. And when they get it in bulk, they call it a bargain.
Let's go.
Okay, so next, you financialize survival. You privatize healthcare.
Okay, so the first step is the food. I'm glad he got into that. Now he's talking about the near impossible. I'm thinking the near impossibleness to support a household independently from scratch here in 2025.
Turn it from a safety net into a luxury product. And when survival becomes a product, guess what happens when you can't afford it anymore?
All right, health insurance. Yeah, it used to be a safety net. I will agree. Back in not too long ago in the 90s, I used to pay $100, actually even up to 2010, 11, before this universal health care in the U.S., Obamacare, whatever it's called. I could still get health insurance as a catastrophic policy for like $100 a month. And it was a safety net. But now, yeah, times have changed. The math never worked. And as much as I kind of wanted universal health care in the past, being my own business and having to buy it myself, I realized that I got screwed over as an individual. But apparently, that was all by design, and that's the way the system has been set up or wanted to be, wanted to evolve into what it is right now.
Naturally, you're going to meet your end. That's the polite way of saying you die.
Nobody gets out of here alive. Yep.
And the genius of it is that it looks like freedom. It feels like personal responsibility.
Yeah, and I've been saying this for years. People, when I bring up this idea of taking control of your own health optimization, people make it sound like, no, I don't want to do that. I choose differently. But how much of that is actually a choice that you've actually made? If you've just been following along with the narratives and what everyone else has been handing down to you, and however the system is designed, which you had no part in designing, how are you actually making a free choice? Have you ever made a free choice or chosen independently ever in your entire life? Think about that. Let me know in the comments what you think about that.
Can't afford insulin, or needed surgery but went bankrupt instead. Well, that's on you. That's piss poor financial planning, my friend.
Right now he's trying to say that, the system did it to you. Of course, I can't even get anyone to acknowledge, or not most people anyway. Almost everyone will not even acknowledge it's a system. They'll say, oh, it's a genetic condition. Oh, I have this. You don't understand. This runs in my family, et cetera, et cetera. People still are at a very low level of consciousness and awakening in regards to what he's saying. I hope you can understand what he's saying, though.
Darwin loves a bootstrapper.
Yes.
The guillotine used to be a blade, and now it's in the form of a bill. It's sort of like extinction on a payment plan. Death by declined transaction, or something like that.
So again, he's kind of making the analogy that they have made it nearly impossible to do anything but what they want you to do because everything is so expensive and there's no wiggle room in there.
Now, I'm not saying that we have no personal responsibility in these matters. On the contrary, I
Actually, I would say that you can choose. That's one of the legal choices you can do. You can either choose to not have any responsibility, or you can choose the path that I'm talking about, which is more like the red pill, I suppose. And it really does work, but I'd say most people have been so brainwashed they can't see outside of that. But again, all you need is an open mind. That's the only requirement.
think we're going to have to take the utmost personal responsibility to drastically change this rather dystopian predicament that we're in.
Definitely.
Okay. Continuing.
So basically, what he's saying is that it's an open mind. What he's hoping that you have, and watching this video, and let me know in the comments below, is an open mind. If you have an open mind, then the sky's the limit. You can break out of this invisible cage that you're in. And I think that everyone is in this cage. I like the way he describes it. In the work that we do with our nonprofit, I don't usually use the methods that he's using to describe it, but I think they're accurate.
So you can't just quietly edit people out of the system without keeping them distracted, right?
Oh yeah. Oh
Because
yeah.
if they're aware that they're being phased out of the system, that could be problematic. So enter the greatest anesthetic ever invented, the attention economy.
There you go.
Now, the average American spends 7 hours a day staring at screens.
So what he's saying is kind of what I mentioned earlier about attention. They have whoever is in charge of this, and it can change, again, if you choose differently, but whoever's in charge of this, if you go along with it, they've hijacked your full attention. And you're on these devices looking at what they want you to look at. Well, he says an average of 7 hours a day.
7 hours. That's more time than they sleep or spend with their kids.
If only I could get people to pay attention to our stuff about health optimization, the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, the 6 pillars of healthy vegan food. If you don't know what that is, just go to our website at plantbaseddiet.org. But if only I could capture attention that effectively. If someone wants to help me design a system that's going to capture all these 7 hours or like a large portion of it every day for the average person, please reach out.
It's more time than they spend making eye contact with other humans without a buffering icon.
Yeah.
And what we are doing in those 7 hours, we're inadvertently competing to see who can be the most distracted. We used to build pyramids for the pharaohs.
Okay, competing to be who get the most distracted. Of course, no one's consciously doing that, but that's what it ends up being. We think, oh, this is all curated for me. This is all my life. This is all my interests. It's so great. It's exactly what I want because that's what the AI is dishing out to you because it watches how you slow down. When you're scrolling through things, how you just slow down and look at things for a microsecond, it picks up on all that. It's better than anybody, any friend you could have, I suppose. But you, again, can choose to hang out with an actual friend, an actual human, instead of these screens and devices.
And now we're building engagement metrics for billionaires. It's still slavery, just cleverly hidden in plain sight with better user experience design.
Yeah, it is slavery. I mean, it's expanding on the idea of wage slavery. If you're familiar with that, wage slavery. All right, but this is more like techno feudalism, is what they call it nowadays. You ever heard that term, techno feudalism? But it also kind of goes into the same thing I was saying about the Matrix and that movie. And all the humans thought they were doing something else. I guess it was fun or beneficial, but in reality, they were nothing more than slaves. And that's what this system is here in 2025. I remember when stuff started happening really big on Facebook in groups and stuff, and we had this incredible large group in in North Carolina in the Raleigh area, and I remember some memes coming out. I think most people didn't understand it; they just laughed at it. But I was like, "Wow, this is deep." It was a picture of somebody holding up their phone and looking at their screen, and I was saying like it was someone interacting in our group. I was making a joke, but they had this tan line on their face and their body because they were at the beach of where the device was blocking sun's rays from hitting their skin. And so it just showed them their arms and the device on their body and face. And that's how everybody is right now. They don't even realize it, but that's how much control these devices have over everybody.
I mean, when you really think about it, it's almost genius, really.
Yeah, it
They
is.
didn't just give us bread and circuses. They put the circus right in our pocket and in the palm of our hands. And the bread is either cheap poison or $14 artisanal avocado toast that, of course, somehow still leaves you hungry.
So the food, of course, we talk about this a lot in our nonprofit work. Any kind of prepared food by anybody is health harming food. I'm telling you, everything out there, unless you're eating out of the organic produce section and you're watching the nuts, seeds, and avocados. Uh, I mean, we eat tons of whole food, whole fruit, whole foods, actual food as grown, but everything else, mm-mm. It's not for your benefit, even though you think it is. They tricked you.
So, every argument online, every culture war screaming match is really just a diversion strategy engineered by the elite. It's just two people punching each other inside a digital prison.
Okay, it's engineered by the elite, a distraction, and he's talking about politics, of course, religion, but especially politics. I mean, it's unbelievable when I look online, and of course, we don't get into politics, especially because I run a 501c3. But I kind of laugh and I say, people, I laugh at it, but it's so sad to see how right one person thinks they are on one side or the other. They're all right, and they're completely left distracted to what's actually going on, which is what this guy's talking about, the functional melancholic, or what I'm talking about, and the work that we're doing at our nonprofit. Even with the work that we're doing, it's so hard for anyone to change even one single habit. And people would much rather participate in the political wars or the gender wars. That's the other one. Of course, the religious wars, all these things just to distract you. That's all it is. And give you more short term dopamine hits to the things that you're really passionate about. Passionate, AKA politics, religion, or the wars on the sexes. Oh my gosh.
While the zookeeper counts ad revenue.
Yeah.
And you think you're fighting for justice, but in reality, you're fighting inside the zoo enclosure while the algorithm decides which monkey gets fed first.
Yeah, you understand that? That's exactly what's going on.
And meanwhile, the actual decisions about your lifespan, those are happening in a secret conference room with free fancy snacks you'll never taste.
Yeah, I wonder where that is. Let me know in the comments if you know where that conference room is and and who happens to be in it.
Still think this sounds like dystopian fan fiction?
No?
No, well, maybe. I mean, hey, I'm having fun with this in any case. Okay, so let's talk numbers. McKinsey predicts that by 2030, 375 million people, that's roughly the population of the U.S., will need to find new careers.
Due to AI.
Assuming there are any careers left to find. Oxford Economics says 20 million manufacturing jobs are gone by the end of the decade. But hey, white collar jobs are safe, right?
No.
Well, actually, no.
Nobody at a keyboard and screen.
Turns out AI is already doing legal research, drafting contracts, writing code, diagnosing medical conditions,
Definitely.
and
And by the way, if you're somebody who's in school, of course, you already know this, cheating on all of your tests, all your papers, everything. Nobody even does any work anymore. And the youngest students already know this. I can only imagine what they think the purpose of work is at this point, like Gen Alpha people.
probably composing your boss's team appreciation email while you're in a meeting that could have been
An
an
email.
email. Oh, and remember when doctors and lawyers told everyone to learn a trade? Guess who's next up on the chopping block?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. More complicated, though, but still.
So, Northeastern University's Network Science Institute claims that 73% of the U.S. food supply is ultra processed crap.
Whoa, there you go. Do you hear that? 73%. This is why you got to learn how to grow your own food. If the robots are doing everything else, like he's saying, or will, then I think hopefully this is some motivation for you to want to get into the space of learning how to grow your own food and going to a place where you can do that, ideally all year round. That's what you want to do. And by the way, we're in projects like that at the nonprofit. Just go to plantbaseddiet.org and you'll see what's going on. Navigate through the website.
6 in 10 adults have chronic disease, according to the Centers for Disease Control.
Yes.
Life expectancy just dropped for the first time.
Okay. Also, I have posted some statistics, and I think that Denise may have, my wife, beautiful wife Denise, may put it on the website now. I asked a bunch of questions to an LLM about this, and let me get off the blink so you don't have to stare at his blinking the whole time. He's just gonna.
Decades.
Okay. Here's what I found, which is even scarier than what he's saying right now, which is that right now in 2025, and it's gone up from about 60% of medical costs when I was born in the year 1970 to 90% of all medical costs right now are due to non-communicable disease. What's a non-communicable disease? It's something you can't catch from someone else. So you've created it through your lifestyle, or you follow this system that everyone's set up. That's what's helped. That's what's really created it in you. We have the antidote for that, of course. It's the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine combined with the 6 pillars of healthy vegan food. And a lot of that also involves you growing your own food. So you've got to start learning now. Time is short. And if this resonates with you, by all means, contact us through plantbaseddiet.org. Our email address is plantbaseddiet.org@gmail.com. You can contact me right there.
But fear not, because there's a new iPhone that can measure your blood oxygen levels while you slowly die of something you can't afford to treat.
Yeah.
I mean, at least you'll be more aware.
And something that you created through your lifestyle. Keep that in mind. He's not saying that. He doesn't have the knowledge, I don't think, but I'm telling you that.
Of the situation, right? The more you know.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'll be frank. I strongly suspect that if any of this is actually true, none of it is by accident. I mean,
Right.
it may have started by accident, but the rest of it is by design.
Yeah, I would say to people that I've said that we live in the system of everything's degenerative, and everything should be regenerative. And that's the kind of farming and food growing that we do. I don't necessarily think it started out that someone was going to do all this, but yeah, people who are in control, they're smarter than the average person. They see what's going on, and they keep honing things and refining things to get the result that they want. And you can see what's happening now. Nobody can afford anything. People aren't having kids anymore. Everyone, 90% of all medical costs are from non-communicable diseases, and it's a similar rate of death. at least 75% or 80% of all deaths are from non-communicable diseases. We're doing this to ourselves because of this degenerative system that we're living in that we apparently don't want to do anything about.
I mean, look at it this way. When food companies are hiring addiction scientists to make your snacks hit harder than cocaine,
Mm-hmm.
and when hospitals become profit centers instead of places to heal.
Yeah, let me comment on some of that right there. The food, yeah, it's denatured drugs. That's what it is. Yes, food addiction, absolutely. Addiction to denatured drugs, food-like products, they're health-harming foods. And of course, the hospitals, yeah, they don't make any money by telling you that you can reverse your back pain by cutting added salt from your diet. And one neurosurgeon actually resigned because of that. He had a conscious crisis because, 80 plus or 90, as I found out now, 90% of all his surgeries probably were not needed. All you got to do is change your habits. But hospital doesn't make any money if you change your habits. A patient cured is a customer lost, is the current model.
That's not exactly what I would call progress.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Sounds to me more like a controlled demolition of human relevance.
Oh, my gosh. Of course, you catch the analogy there. He's saying that all this is related, and it very well may be. I just wish that functional melancholic, if you're out there, if you want to partner on something here with health optimization, with taking control of your own health, I would love to, because there's a lot of that I'm commenting on here that you're missing out on that I would love to work with you on.
So let's picture your hypothetical death certificate for a minute under these circumstances. Cause of death, insufficient funds.
So,
And here's your hypothetical eulogy. He couldn't afford to live.
okay, insufficient funds, he doesn't touch on it, but of course, this is all fake fiat currency that the Fed has quantitatively eased into hyperinflation. So your fake dollar is worth almost nothing anymore. So you are going to be in severe financial crisis unless you are like hyper focused and specific with budgeting and things. And so many people aren't. We already know. Look at their behavior online.
But his credit score was pretty good.
Not sure how that's possible,
So
but
they're not going to shoot you. They'll just decline your transaction, which means you'll die waiting for an insurance approval that never comes. Or, in the ER after maxing out your card in hospital parking fees. And then you'll probably blame yourself.
of course, does any of this sound like a world that you want to bring up babies and children? I mean, if it isn't the decreased sperm counts from the BPA plastics or whatever that you're consuming with all your hyper-processed foods, it's just the whole system and the way it makes you feel unless you're constantly burying your face in your screen 24/7.
And you'll sit there spiraling and ruminating, thinking, damn, I should have worked harder. I should have saved more. Even though you were already working 60 plus hours a week and doing the best you could to save money. Now look, cut yourself some slack, because you were never.
Well, I'm not going to necessarily fully agree with what you just said right there, because the reason why people aren't doing the best that they can, or they could do a lot better, is because they're so distracted with their screens. They're not paying attention to their own personal finances. And this is another way that the system gets you.
Supposed to win. The game was always rigged. All right. So, what do we do besides
What's the answer?
meme our way into oblivion? Now, some people think UBI, Universal Basic Income, is the silver bullet here.
That's if you trust the government to make on-time payments and not be slow and make mistakes, and suddenly you have nothing.
hand everyone a monthly check and call it equality, I guess. And on a certain level, that sounds pretty good. I get it. But let me ask you this. If the same corporations issuing the UBI own the robots, the land, the supply chains,
Yeah.
the lobbyists,
Oh,
how
yeah.
free do you really feel?
About as free as you are in the Matrix, right? I mean, that's it. Go back to that movie. You haven't seen it. I'm talking about the original one that was released in 1999.
I mean, isn't, you know, this, it isn't really independence. It's just a fancier leash, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I would say so.
Now, I think a better solution here would be smaller, resilient communities that share resources instead of competing for scraps.
All right. Well, this is something we're involved in our nonprofit. If you go to lacasamasalta.org, you'll be able to see a house there in a community that's somewhat similar to what he's talking about. But it's in a place where you can live outside without air conditioning or heat all year round and grow all your food all year round outdoors.
Actual share economies. Not hippie communes with drum circles, but
There are some drum
real
circles there. There are sometimes.
practical functional networks where people trade value instead of swiping cards until they choke on interest. And maybe even create, I don't know, maybe even try to create a form of currency, something decentralized, non-government.
Okay, he's talking about crypto, of course, but his little pipe dream there of communities in the United States, because that's where this guy is not going to work necessarily because so much is brought in long distance transportation. Is anything from China, which is everything in the dollar stores, all this short term dopamine hits of purchases of cheap consumer goods and the food? Okay, like in the wintertime, in order to get fresh produce, if it's unless it's grown locally in an indoor farm, and that would be with robots and computers, it's going to have to be brought. And I don't know how a simple bartering system could address something like that. It's better to look for, I would think, a place on the earth where it's more conducive to do what he's saying.
Government not controlled by the same people who treat survival like a premium feature. You know, you can call it crypto or barter or, I don't know, goat-based economics. I don't care. Just something outside their spreadsheet.
I don't know how.
Because I think the truth
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to be done in the United States. If you have some ideas, let me know.
is if you're waiting for the state or some billionaire messiah to save you, as I've said before, I think you're just the punchline in their quarterly earnings report.
Okay, so he's basically saying that this UBI is nothing. Don't depend on it. I guess depend on that as much as Social Security, whatever that means. Because some people it's worked out for them, but others in the future, I have a feeling it may not.
Now, look, maybe I'm wrong. And I'm just off my rocker today. And the future really is full of prosperity and health care for all and
sick care for all.
Utopian robot butlers who respect boundaries. But if I'm right, we're likely watching the most polite apocalypse in history, the most profitable mass liquidation ever staged.
Yeah, and there are some people that believe this. It's not the only guy. If all the elites and can run everything with AI, robots, and computers, why would they need humans? They're just kind of in the way. Am I right? I think that's the hypothesis of what he's getting at here, and I tend to agree with him. Unfortunately.
And the best part is that we willingly signed up for it.
Yeah.
And, we downloaded the app.
The average person's just sitting there staring at their screen for 7 hours a day, or sometimes more. That's the average. That includes your 90-year-old grandfather who has never used the internet. Okay, most people are on there for longer than 7 hours, and they're enjoying it. They're laughing. They're entertained. They are oblivious, completely oblivious to what's going on, and they'll make every excuse as to why they are sick, because the average person is chronically ill. Okay, that's something you got to realize. No matter what he's saying, the average person is chronically ill. They are suffering.
And we clicked, I agree. Fine print be damned. So, welcome to this hypothetical future.
The present.
Where I hope you would have kept your receipt. Not that it would really matter.
All right. Well, anyway, I'm going to link the video down below. Let me know your thoughts. I've already done a reaction video to Dysfunctional Melancholic guy in the past. He has some really good videos, some that I don't want to watch all the way through. But this one also sums up so much of what he said, so much of what we're working on, so much of what we think can be made better. And our premise is just to have fun, to enjoy life. But if you're chronically ill and if you are never able to pay for things, you've got to be willing to move beyond these short-term dopamine hits, have an open mind. And if you have an open mind, please share this video with somebody that can benefit. And we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.